In the next few minutes, I will be covering the final Educator evaluation rating calculation for the 2018-19 school year. The categories of educators have not changed from past years. To review, the first category is educators with rosters. For educators that have electronic gradebook rosters, the mean growth metric of all tests for the students that were enrolled 90% of the class time will be used. The second category is building-based educators. For educators that do not have an electronic gradebook roster, but are at a specific building, the mean growth metric of all tests for all the students that were enrolled at that building for 90% of the time will be used. The third category is preschool educators. For educators that teach preschool students, the mean DIBELS growth metric of the students that were enrolled 90% of the time into kindergarten at that building will be used. The fourth category is level-based educators. Level-based educators are those educators that teach students from different home schools. For these educators, the mean growth metric for all tests for all students enrolled 90% of the time in the district at that level will be used. The fifth and final category is district-based educators. For those educators that serve all schools in a district-level position, the mean growth metric of all tests for all students enrolled 90% of the time in the district will be used. The components of the evaluation are as follows. The summative rating for elementary educators will be 60% observation, 5% SIP performance, and 35% student growth. Student growth scores will be calculated using DIBELS TRC for grades K through 3 and ILEARN for 4th and 5th grades. For middle school teachers, the summative rating will be 60% observation, 5% SIP performance, and 35% student growth. For teachers that only teach language arts, only the ILEARN ELA growth will be used. Similarly, for teachers that only teach math, only ILEARN math will be used. For teachers that teach other content areas, SRI will be weighted more than the ILEARN ELA and math growth. For high school educators, again, the summative rating will be 60% observation, 5% SIP performance, and 35% student growth. For teachers that only teach language arts and have students that have ILEARN growth, only the growth for those students will be used. For teachers that only teach math and have students that have ILEARN math growth, only the growth for those students will be used. For other teachers that do not have ILEARN ELA or ILEARN math growth, SRI growth will be used. For district-level educators, 60% will be observation and 40% will be district-wide student growth. For SIP performance, the goals specified in the school's improvement plan will be used. They are ILEARN ELA proficiency, ILEARN math proficiency, ILEARN ELA growth, ILEARN math growth, percent of students reading at grade level, ELL student growth, the percentage of students without referrals, the total out-of-school suspension days, and the percentage of model attendees. The ILEARN goals were only used if it improved the school's score. The 2018-19 goal performance was compared to both the goal target and the 2017-18 performance as specified in the school improvement plan. If the performance was below the 2017-18 performance, a score of 1 was assigned to the goal. If the performance was greater than the 2017-18 performance, but below 3% of the target, a score of 2 was assigned. If the 2018-19 performance was between 3% below the target and the target, a score of 3 was assigned. Finally, if the 2018-19 performance was above the target, a score of 4 was assigned to the goal. A couple of notes. Anthus, CAS Nebraska, and the Career Academy had their own unique SIP goals. ILEARN goals were only used if they improved the school's score. Even if only one of the 4 ILEARN scores improved the SIP score, that one ILEARN goal was used. If the school's 2017-18 SIP score was higher than the 2018-19 SIP score, then the 2017-18 SIP score was used. Now for student growth metric calculations. For K-3 students, Dibble's TRC growth level was used. Well above grade level growth received a 4, above grade level received a 3, target grade level growth received a 3, below grade level received a 2, and well below grade level received a 1. For students who took ILEARN tests, the student growth percentile is determined by the Indiana Department of Education. Each student's growth metric will be scored according to the DOE's percentile growth ranges. A student scoring in the 66th or greater percentile will receive a score of 4. Students scoring between the 51st and the 65th percentile inclusive will receive a score of 3. Students scoring between the 35th and the 50th percentile inclusive will receive a score of 2, and students scoring below the 35th percentile will receive a score of 1. For students who took the SRI test, growth will be determined as the difference between the end-of-year test and the beginning-of-year test. This difference will be compared to the Lexile growth target ranges published by Scholastic. Ranges are set according to proficiency level and grade level. The proficiency level is determined by the beginning-of-year test. Students whose growth is greater than or equal to the upper boundary of the Lexile growth target range will receive a score of 4. Students whose growth is greater than the lower boundary of the Lexile growth target range, but less than the upper boundary of the Lexile growth target range, will receive a score of 3. Students whose growth is greater than 0 but less than the lower boundary of the Lexile growth target range will receive a score of 2. Finally, students with no or negative growth will receive a score of 1. A couple of notes concerning the growth calculation for ILEARN. It was only used if it improved the teacher's score. Also, if a teacher's 2017-18 growth score is higher than their 2018-19 growth score, the 2017-18 growth score was used. For teachers that do not have a 2017-18 growth score and only have a growth score that contain ILEARN growth, the school's building-wide 2018-19 growth is used if it was higher than the teacher's. Here's a sample summative calculation. The Educator school had 5 school performance goals. The results of these goals are average for the school performance rating, in this case a 2.6. Then 60% of the observation score of 3.5, 5% of the SIP score of 2.6, and 25% of the gross score of 3 are added together to total a final summative rating of 3.28. Finally, additional information will be posted on Human Resources Internet page under Final Evaluation section. I hope this video has been helpful. We have gone to great lengths to ensure that teachers have been held harmless by ILEARN. If you have made it to this point, thank you for watching.